All right, what is going on, everybody? We are back after a little break from this weekend. We have a few games to talk about. We have a bunch of teams to talk about. Like I said, we're not really going to cover game to game every game going here forward till the play-in tournament starts. But I do have some teams with some narratives that I want to talk about, and I have a game or two pulled up that I want to hit on. Other than that, let's just jump right into it. The first thing that I want to touch on is those New York Knicks, man. How about those Knicks? In a really, in a really weird spot. Um, they can't seem to beat any of these top teams. That means, I believe, Cleveland, Boston, and Oklahoma. They just can't seem to beat any of those guys. If it's anybody else, they have a very good shot against them. But they've we can just run through all these. They haven't won a single game versus any of these teams. They lost to Boston first game of the season. They lost to Cleveland their third game of the season. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see here. They lost to Oklahoma in January. They lost to Oklahoma again in January. They lost to Boston February 8th. They lost to Cleveland February 21st, and they lost to Boston February 23rd. Now, this isn't a good look, and I'm not going to dive into any of these games specifically. I mean, we could dive into the Boston game a little bit. I will pull that up here in a second. But I think what it really comes down to is, and I do want to look this up as well. I'm doing this off the cuff. Um, I I think it's just, and I've thought this for a while, and I don't think it's an indictment of this person, but I just don't think Tom Thibodeau is a head coach of the Knicks is a championship level coach. Like, he brings the best out of guys. Like, he really does. And like, if you are sort of his make and model, so to speak, like if you can really vibe and gel with Tom Thibodeau, I think he turns your career around. He makes guys careers, you know? I mean, Josh Hart was Josh Hart before he got to the Knicks, but he's made Josh Hart an amazing, amazing role player, you know? And I just think it's crazy that these Knicks teams can't have great seasons, you know? They can have great seasons. Most of them marred by injuries because Coach Tom Thibodeau plays them so much. I'm gonna pull up the basketball reference here in a minute to get an idea, get the exact numbers for you guys. But he just runs his guys into the ground. And granted, every team wants their best players to play, but in a blowout, in a in a blowout win or loss, some guys just shouldn't be playing. They should not check back into the game. And more recently, Karl Towns, he checked back into a game. This last Boston game when they were down. I believe it's this Boston game, right? Yeah, this last Boston game when they were down. The game was effectively over. Um, and Tom Thibodeau sent him back in, and he injured his left knee, and he walked off into the locker room. Um, Cat is on the first year of a 4-year, $220 million contract. Um, this the stuff I'm reading is from Tommy Bear on Twitter, random Twitter user. Give him his credit though. Um, it's the largest contract in Knicks franchise history, um, and New York is on the hook whether he's healthy or not. And I think that's a great point. Um, this is the biggest. I don't want to say this is the biggest trade since the Melo trade for the Knicks, but I think it's one of the most important trades for the Knicks. Obviously, you traded for. Oh, well, I don't think you traded for Jalen Brunson, but is one of the biggest transactions, I should say, in New York Knicks history. And I think it's so important to keep Cat and keep everybody healthy because I'm not trying to say none of these guys are uh, are old by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of these guys aren't young. You know, um, Jalen Brunson, 6 years NBA experience. Carly Towns, 9 years NBA experience. Mikal Bridges, 6 years. You know, you're on a bit of an older team, and these are prime years for these guys. And I'm gonna I'm gonna dive into this a little deeper here. Um, the Knicks have not made the conference finals in they haven't made the conference finals since 1999. They haven't been back, and I think this is the team's best chance. Um, but you look at Tom Thibodeau, and as a coach for the New York Knicks, his best season with the team was last year, 50-32. Other seasons of good records consist of the year previous to that one, 2022-2023. Um, 20, 47 wins, 35 losses. And his first year there, 41 wins, 31 losses. And this year, 37 wins, 20 losses on the season. Um, yeah, I just think he plays his guys too much. Just like too much. And somebody brought up a great point. I can't remember who it was. It's not that Tom Thibodeau doesn't trust his bench because the Knicks have a good bench this season. Matter of fact, it's one of their better benches, I think. Um, Especially depending on the lineup, one of the Villanova guys is going to come off the bench, whether that's Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, you know, one of those guys. And I think the point the person was trying to make, I can't remember who it was for the life of me right now, but they said even if he did have a good bench, like a Boston Celtics bench, would he play them, or does he just not like he just runs his best guys out there just to run them out there? And I'm gonna read off some numbers here for you guys. Jalen Brunson averaging 35.2 minutes a game. Karl-Anthony Towns 35.1. Mikal Bridges 37.9. OG Anunoby 36.1, who just came back from injury. Josh Hart 37.8. Miles Barry 23. Precious Achiuwa 22. I'm reading guys off the bench now, but you know it's rough. And granted, you have two All Stars. You have two guys in Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson averaging almost a little below or above 25 points. But man, you 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 can't run a team like this. And like the thing is, like, these guys love Tibbs, right? And I think Karl-Anthony Towns in his second time around with Tibbs, um, this is his second time being coached by Tom Thibodeau. I think it's been better, but I also think that everybody knows what you get when you play for a Tom Thibodeau team. You're gonna play a lot of minutes if you're a great player. But I just this style of playing is such like a surface level take, but I think it's just there are more eyes on it than ever because this Knicks team is so good and they're projected to be so good. They are projected to be so good, but they're also there is more to strive for. You know what I mean? A good regular season record isn't the goal. The goal is to make the conference finals for the first time this century, and the goal is to win an NBA championship. And I I can't blame I can't blame any of the players. I think a lot of these players, for the majority of the career, have been relatively healthy. I mean, OG Anunoby is the only one that I think has been like banged up consistently, but like he's a hard nosed player. He's gonna get banged up. He's a grit and grind guy, you know. Um, I just don't like this Knicks team down the stretch, and I think it's sort of unfortunate that Tom Thibodeau was just stuck in his ways. And like I said at the top, he does bring the best out of his guys, but you just you can't trust this guy to manage minutes. His minute management for players is terrible, you know. And we can look at this Boston game versus the Knicks very quickly. Boston won this game, 118 to 105. It was a very entertaining game, in the sense of if you were a Boston Celtics fan. The biggest lead, it was let's see down here. The biggest lead for the Celtics was 27. Really good stuff. This is the first time the Knicks have had their full starting five, and not a bunch of games, but a handful of games. Um, let's see. Yeah, Mikal Bridges with 14, OG Anunoby with 10. You had three people in double digits. Karl Anthony Towns in double digits, in 20 plus points. Pardon me. Um, they were all in double digits. The starting five, but 20 plus. You had Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, and Josh Hart, and this Boston Celtics team just gave them the work. They gave them everything they had. Um, Jason Tatum with 25, Kristaps Porzingis with 15, Drew Holiday with 14, Derek White with 19, Jaylen Brown with 24, and they didn't really need a lot off the bench because they just blew the doors off them. Um, I'm just looking at this game, and it's just crazy that, in fact, the Boston Celtics did play their starters more minutes this game, collectively, I think. But man, I'm looking at this. Karl-Anthony Towns, 41 minutes a game, this game. I'm looking at Josh Hart, 40 minutes a game. Um, Granted, these Boston Celtics, 37 minutes, 37, 37. They played a lot of minutes, but they don't do this every game. That's why they won this game, is because they don't have to play these many minutes a game. When they do, when they're in these types of situations, when it gets closer and closer at the end, they can say, Joe Mazzulla, the Boston head coach, can say, okay, now we can really run these guys a little bit longer, give them a bit of a longer leash, because it is the end of the season, and we are trying to win the season series, and we are trying to send a statement. Even though we are in Boston, we still want to kick some ass. You know what I mean? And that's really it. That's it for the Knicks. It's unfortunate because I like this Knicks team a lot. I saw them in person a couple weeks ago. I really like them. Karl-Anthony Towns went off, and I think it's so weird to think of a coach as like not be and being a coach for so long and not being able to manage minutes for guys. It's just so crazy that that's like the one thing Tom Thibodeau can't do. He can bring the best out of you, but you damn well know you're going to play a lot of minutes. So that's it for the Knicks. Next on the docket, just very briefly, I feel like I keep dunking on them this whole um, season, but Philadelphia 76ers, um, they lost to they're on a bad losing streak, but to cap it all off, um, they lost to the Brooklyn Nets on a game-winning tip in from Nicholas Claxton. And let me just read off the teams they've lost to. Um, just in February, they lost to Boston. They won against Dallas, and that's their only win in February. They lost to Miami. They lost to Detroit. They lost to Milwaukee. They lost to Toronto. They lost to Brooklyn on the 12th of February. That was in Brooklyn. They lost to Boston again, and then they lose to the Nets in Philadelphia on a game-winning tip. And I don't know why this is just a thought for the Sixers now, or why nobody thought of this earlier? But people are saying Joel Embiid should shut it down, and the 76ers should tank. And I've been saying that for weeks now. 4 weeks. I've been saying it for weeks. Just shut it down. It's not worth it. And ESPN Shams Charania came out with a report. The 76ers and Joel Embiid are consulting doctors and considering an alternative option on his knee. Sources tell ESPN sides have hoped for progress in Embiid's body, but his efforts to play and current treatment, including injections, have not provided any improvement. Um, yeah. And with a follow up report, he's exploring options such as surgery and other things. Um, this is a throwaway season. In the lamest of terms, this is just a throwaway season. This has been a bad season. There will continue to be bad seasons for this Philadelphia 76ers team if they just don't move on from Joel Embiid. And I think that's the vibe right now. And I'm trying to think of a player that this has happened to before. And not too unfamiliar to Philadelphia. This is kind of what happened to um, Allen Iverson. Um, he was banged up all the time. He still tried to play. He tried to give the city his all, and they eventually had to trade him. They traded him to Denver, I believe, and he eventually came back in a roundabout way to Philadelphia. But they just had to get rid of him to start rebuilding. When did they trade him? They traded him in 2006, 2007, and then he returned in 2009, 2010. Um, he went on a journey to Denver, to he was in Detroit, he was in Memphis, and then he made his way back to Philadelphia. Um, Nevertheless, I think it's a similar situation in the sense of you don't want to admit it's over when it's over, when your body has betrayed you, but at a certain point, you just kind of have to just pack it in. And I'm not saying trade Joel Embiid. I have said that in the past. I've said it kind of hyperbolically, but I think it's important to understand that this season is lost, and you should maybe Joel should just shut it down. And other reports have said, he does need an elongated timetable to really recover from this injury because he can't fully recover while playing. He needs to just sit on his ass and do nothing. Now, that's a different sort of monster. In if he is sitting on his ass and doing nothing, is he going to gain weight? Is he going? Are these other things going to happen? Is he going to be back in time? Because like right now, they shut it down now, right? Let's say they shut it down the end of this month, right? End of this month, February. So you have March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Hell, he could sit out the first month of the whole of next season, right? He could sit out the whole first month. That's a lot. That's a lot of time to just sit on your ass. The question becomes: do you trust Joel Embiid to get himself back into shape at what's Joel Embiid? Joel Embiid's a lot older than people think. He's almost been in the league 10 years. Joel Embiid's 30, right? So when he comes back, when's his birthday? He's 30. So theoretically, when he comes back, he will be 32 on the backside of 32. So he'll be 33 essentially. Do you really trust this guy, the guy who's constantly not in shape, to be in shape? I don't know. I don't. That's just me though. Um, but enough dunking on the Sixers. Their next couple games they play Chicago, New York, Golden State, Portland, Minnesota, and then Boston again. And then it's just the grind to the end of the season. I'm not going to look too far into this because, like I said, Joel Embiid could be shut down this week, next week, whenever. Let's move on to another, a different sort of situation in the Golden State Warriors. I just want to touch on this briefly because I did have some questions about the fit with Jimmy Butler um, and the fit just overall. It's been fitting brilliantly. Um, they they really picked it up here. Let's see here. They won against Milwaukee. They lost to Dallas. They won against Houston and they won against Sacramento, and then they redeemed themselves the other night and won against Dallas in surprising fashion. It was Andre Iguodala's jersey retirement. Congratulations, Andre Iguodala. Hell of a player. Ironically, that they now have Jimmy Butler, who reminds Warriors fans and Warriors staff of Andre Iguodala. Um, Nevertheless, though, I really liked watching this game. This was a great game to watch. Um, I think it really showcased what the Warriors can be down the stretch. And as I had predicted in my last video, check that out if you want to check it out. Mid-season report cards and all that. I had theorized that the Warriors would stay around here, but seeing as the Spurs are going to fall down, the Suns don't seem to be doing too much better than they were pre All-Star break, and the Mavericks are kind of in flux. I don't know. They're still gonna have to play in the play-in. Don't get me wrong, but they could be on the higher end of the play-in. Um, I really like this game though for this team. Just touch on it quickly. Let's see here. Both teams had no bigs. The only big that that both teams really had. I'm looking right here. The only team both bigs really had. The only big that both teams only had was Quentin Post for the Warriors, the rookie. It was a crazy thing to think. He had an amazing dunk. There was an amazing sequence where I forget who started the fast break, but like somebody lost it, and then Brendan Podziemski picked it up, shuffled it to Butler, and then Butler shuffled it to Quentin Post, and Quentin Post had a great dunk. Um, just diving into the numbers real quick here. Draymond Green with 13 points, 6 assists, 2 steals, 4 rebounds. Jimmy Butler with 18 points, 5 assists. Steph Curry with a cool 30, 12 for 20 overall from field goal, 3 of 8 from three, 7 assists, 4 rebounds. Moses Moody was really good this game. I think he deserves more burn. Um, 14 points for him. And Brandon Podziemski with 17, 3 of 5 from three. Um, 13 rebounds also for Brandon Podziemski. And off the bench, Quentin Post with 10 points. Um, Steve Kerr, the Warriors coach, did say that that they are going to continue to run small for the rest of the season. So that means Draymond Green at the 5, and that means Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry, Brandon Podziemski, and then whoever really matches up better. I think Moses Moody deserves it. They do have Trace Jackson Davis um, on the injury report. They do have Jonathan Kuminga, who is making progress. So we'll see what the that looks like rounding into the end of the season here. But this Warriors team is surprising me a little bit, and the home crowd was electric. There were Warriors chants, Warriors, like it used to be back in the day with the Oracle. But to touch quickly on this Dallas Mavericks team, this Dallas Mavericks team is interesting. Um, I said it before and I'll say it again. I do not think Kyrie Irving is a 1A on a championship level team. Um, I just I think Kyrie's the best number two in this in the last 2 decades. I think he's one of the best number twos. I just don't, he just doesn't convince me enough. And I get it. His team was injured this game, right? A lot of his teammates are injured this game, right? But man, you're gonna put up 17 points, 1 of 6 from three, 7 of 18 overall from field goal in 32 minutes, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 0 turnovers. I'll give him that. But that's all. This is supposed to be the guy that's supposed to lead my team with Anthony Davis. I don't buy it. Not for me. Kyrie, great player, all-time great handles, best handles ever, one of the best number twos ever. I don't buy him as a number one. I don't buy him as a number one. Anyway, um, I do want to touch on. I don't want to run long on this video. I do want to touch on the Memphis Grizzlies very quickly. They've played some very entertaining basketball. They have some highs and some lows. And I was trying to think about because somebody also had posted something about this on Reddit, and I saw it, and people were talking about, are the Grizzlies a real contender? Because they are second in, I believe they're second in the conference, and they've strung together some really good wins throughout the season. There's a was this a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game winning streak. There's another 6 game winning streak, and they've had a couple very tight games. One against Oklahoma, which was very entertaining to watch, and then one against Cleveland the other night, where Cleveland um, fought with them, and they fought with Cleveland, and it was just sort of weird that like I never really felt like the Memphis Grizzlies were gonna win this Cleveland game. Cleveland won this game 129, Memphis 123. It just never felt like they won this game. And the crazy thing is, and this is not like a crazy take, is that like this team, I want to say it's better without Ja Morant, their All Star point guard, but it kind of is. I like the way they play without Ja Morant, and then when Ja Morant gets to the game, he brings a different dynamic. Obviously, he's a slasher to the basket. He's in a what do you call it, like a attention. Like you have to send two bodies at him sometimes if he gets 1 foot in the paint. I like this team without Ja Morant, and there are so many things flying around about this Grizzlies team that like this isn't really Ja Morant's team because he's missed so much time and he's been in and out. It's more of Jaren Jackson Jr.'s team, who is a Defensive Player of the Year in the conversation this year for Defensive Player of the Year. Is also an All Star, plays almost every game. He put up 22 this game. Didn't shoot the three well. Um, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 3 rebounds. You need another big to back him up, but I watched this game with those lenses on that like this is Jaren Jackson Jr.'s team, and I believe it. Ja with 21, he came in the game and did some things that were positive. 10 assists. Um, he had 5 personal fouls though. So did Jaren Jackson Jr. Bit of a different story. Um, no steals, no blocks for him, and he was 6 of 13 and 2 of 4 from three and field goal. I just don't know. I just and the point I was trying to make, or the point I thought about when I saw that Reddit post, was like this team just doesn't jump out at me. It doesn't. It's so weird to say that, but like it just doesn't jump out at me. And I've said this team is very good, and I've had a lot of questions about this team, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. I can't I can't put my finger on it. I said that in my midseason report card video too. I just can't put my finger on it. I just can't. And to touch on this Cleveland Cavaliers team very quickly, Evan Mobley at 25. Every time I watch Evan Mobley, I feel like he's improved. Um, 8 assists, 25 points, 13 rebounds, one personal foul. Amazing. Um, Jared Allen with 13, Donovan Mitchell with 33, um, Max Juice with 11. But the hero of this game in particular was Ty freaking Jerome, man. Ty Jerome. I gotta give it up for Ty Jerome, man. Give it up for Ty Jerome. 26 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 turnover, 4 personal fouls, 9 of 6 overall from field goal, 3 of 7 from three. I was watching this game and I was watching Ty Jerome just go off. And Ty Jerome's been around the league. He's played for the Warriors. He's played for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's played for the Wizards. And he was never like this. Like he showed flashes, and it's obvious he works on his game, and he prides himself on working on his game. But the thing that stuck out to me the most was his competitiveness and his his willingness to be a role player, but also sometimes take those big shots, which is very important. And as I was watching this game, I was trying to think of who does Ty Jerome remind me of, and I really couldn't think of it. And then it popped into my head. Ty Jerome reminds me of Goran Dragic for the Heat. For those who do not remember Goran Dragic, I believe he played for the Suns, the Heat, the Rockets, the Nets, the Bucks, I think too, and then the Sixers at some point. That might be wrong on some of those, but he was around for a while. But his best years were with the Heat, and he would have some great games. The control of the game he would have, the shots he would take sometimes, the assists he would get, the just the overall feel of Ty Jerome's game reminds me a lot of Goran Dragic. And hats off to Ty Jerome, man. And yeah, I think that's it. We're running a bit over time, so I'll cut it there. But this was a um this was a very interesting weekend for basketball. There was just some really interesting stuff going on. Let's fast forward to tonight and till about Wednesday. I'll give you guys some picks. I haven't given my picks in a little bit. Um, no primetime games tonight on Monday, but Tuesday we have Cleveland at Orlando. Um, hmm, Give me Cleveland, easy. We have the game everybody's been waiting for, though it will be sort of melancholy. Dallas in Los Angeles to play the Lakers. Luka's first game against his old team. Ah, man, Luka's been kind of struggling, but he did have a good game recently. I'm gonna say the Lakers though. That's such a boring pick, but I have to go Lakers. Knicks versus Philadelphia. It's a toss up. I'm gonna go Knicks. And then you have Houston versus San Antonio in Houston. Give me the Rockets. These are all very basic picks, but I want to give you guys some picks anyway for this week, at least till Wednesday. Um, yeah, I hope you guys like this format a little bit better. Um, Sort of rounding into the end of the season here. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds and overreact to some games, but I do want to still talk about the games and just talk about the general vibes of each team. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we got NBA stuff coming to an end in the regular season. We got March Madness starting up next month. Obviously, March Madness for women's college hoops, men's college hoops. So I'll try to touch on that stuff. Maybe I'll do a bracket. Who knows? I've never done a bracket in my life before, but maybe we'll do a first time bracket. And yeah, that's it. Like, comment, subscribe. Check out my mid-season report cards, and I will see you guys. Um, I don't know when I'll see you guys, but I'll see you guys soon. Cheers. Thank you for watching.